Welcome back to Echo Ridge in another episode here in our Max Duplicant Duplicity series, where yes, we will be printing more dupes today because more folks have decided to sign up for the Patreon and YouTube membership to cause me more pain. All kidding aside though, we have big plans today. I have finally figured out the long-term structure and how we will manage this planetoid. We are going to make a giant living area right down here on the right-hand side. Now, the ultimate plan is going to start by adding a bunch of barracks that go from the very top of the planetoid all the way down to the bottom. We will also make sure there's bathrooms there and probably a kitchen, although I'm going to put that one on the long finger because, well, moving the deep freezer just does not sound like a fun event. But the key to this is that while all the dupes will be living over here, I can then seal it in. We'll have a giant fire pole that goes from the very top all the way down, and there'll be several exits to where they'll then be able to get into suits. That is the plan. Now, it's probably going to take us an episode or two to accomplish it, but once we're there, then we no longer have to worry about bionic dupes shocking themselves by jumping in the pond. Unfortunately, there's quite a bit in our way down here though. So I have to start moving and preparing all of this. Another big advantage of having all the living areas on one side of the colony is going to be the fact that I can take all of the oxygen supply and put it into suits or into vents that keep the entire right side of the colony oxygenated. And it'll be a lot more simplistic. We need more oxygen, we just add another SPOM and vent the 3 pipes right onto the right side of the planetoid. Step 1 is going to be getting rid of this pond, which we are doing. It looks like we were moving 10 kilos per second, but we've sort of slowed down a little bit. I'm not sure why. It's supposed to be coming all the way down. It's because it's joining up with this pipe here. I'd like to give it its own liquid vent, and that way we can get the full 10 kilos per second. But that's a lot of piping to move through. I'm also going to have to slide this over, and that's not going to be pleasant because, well, the bionic dupes are going to start getting fried again. Luckily for us, we're up to 8.4 megajoules, with 70 eco power banks sitting in reserve. And those are still cooking away over here. It looks like we even have a few power bank chargers not active right now. I want to update this system here in a little while as well, using auto sweepers to bring in the empty eco power banks and then filling up the power bank chargers automatically. We're also continuing putting in a bunch of temperature shift plates, which is causing the sauna to drop in temperature, hence the reason there's a lot of water here at the bottom, but we are generating a lot of power, which is generating even more heat. So it won't take too long for this to right size again. So while this pond here is emptying, I'm also going to have to tame this guy. No problems here. I can store all the ice somewhere. We're going to have more polluted water. Ooh, it's the last fossil. As you can see, we've done 3 out of the 4 with only the petrified fossil remaining. Please tell me I did not destroy the point of interest. Nope, there it is right here. So we will have access to the ancient specimen if we ever end up needing it. Finally, we go down. There's more tundra, and then we get into the oil biome itself. No big deal there. We'll probably stop at the oil biome. Now, the standard barracks is 64 tiles, but you have to have doors on these sides as well. So all said and done, we're looking for 18 tiles of width at the minimum. Plus, I'm going to want space for fire poles and more ladders. And it would be even nicer if I could squeeze some heavy watt conductive wire here on the right-hand side. But that is a lot of negative morale. And even using the heavy watt conductive wire, the decor radius is still 4 tiles. In other words, if I put the wire here, that negative decor will extend out 4 tiles. So I'm going to try to butt up against the right-hand side in the neutronium as close as possible. So we see that we have a neutronium tile there. There's another one. And it looks like that's as far out as it goes, which is not too bad, all things considered. So it's this line right here. So I'm just going to start it off with the spine, just so I know what we're dealing with and seeing how close we can butt up against the right side of the colony. We had a small biome up here filled with uranium. There's even a few liquefied chlorine patches here, but as soon as they drop, they'll end up heating up, making a bunch of chlorine. Not a big deal. The question is, do I leave this little number here? It doesn't really line up for us, and it would take an entire row away. I think it's going to have to go away. We did find some data banks in there. Let me do something like that so I can submit the bioscan, because otherwise you can't deconstruct it. But all the rest of this will go away. Do let me mop this up before some bionic dupe wants to go swimming. I just realized we still had one more independent circuit, and it's up here with this brine geyser. I suppose once we have the power spine on the right-hand side, we will hook this up, because this line here has a potential load of almost 5,600 watts. I was also doing a quick check on our fertilizer setup, and you'll notice that we have no dirt coming in. We do have 70 tons somewhere on the planetoid, but they're not delivering it over here. I don't think there's any more mud left, so we're not getting dirt from here. When we do start exploring the next planetoid, I'm really hoping for some pips and some arbor trees so that I have a sustainable source of dirt. Right now, the only mud we're getting is from the grubs. But all that is going to come to an end here soon too when we run out of sulfur. Because when we can't feed the Sweetles the sulfur, well, they're not going to be creating any more sucrose, which we're feeding to the grubs who are creating more dirt. And oh dear goodness, I've discovered a problem. Somehow we've released a bunch of natural gas. I say a bunch, but each tile only has 13 grams. I have no idea where this natural gas came from. My guess is it was in one of the bridges that we deconstructed. We'll get it all compressed again as we add more steam pressure, which our wonderful natural gas generators are helping out with, just as soon as it's hot enough in here to start flashing this polluted water again. When is this cool steam vent going to start erupting? In another 25 cycles. Goodness, that's an eternity in a max dupe playthrough, because you can't play it too fast. First, the simulation starts crawling, and you end up with a bunch of weird errors. For instance, I'll take this area as an example for you. Sitting here in ×1 speed, we're at 34, 35 frames per second. As soon as I go up to ×3 speed, that drops to about 19 to 20 frames per second. And ×9 speed, oh, this is going to be bad. Apparently, it's just about the same at 18, 19 frames per second. So when I'm recording these episodes on this series, I tend to play a little bit slower. Our heavy watt conductive wire is up, and just to make sure, I'm going to scroll all the way down to make sure it doesn't run into any neutronium. Perfect. And we can see the decor hit extends all the way to this tile here. So we don't want any of the ladders to be past this point here. And I will be upgrading to all plastic ladders. So I'm thinking we will start by adding a giant fire pole right here. The question is, what am I going to build it out of? I guess we're going to use gold amalgam. And we're going to start going all the way down, just like this. And then we'll have some plastic ladders going all the way down, just like this. And I'll continue to extend that. I might as well start putting in the heavy watt conductive wire, made out of lead, of course. And then as these fire poles and ladders go in, we will deconstruct this ladder rung here, which means our doors can start at this point 18 tiles over at the minimum for a barracks. Puts us at right about here. I mean, I don't see why we can't even have some places that are stacked too wide. 36 tiles gets us to about here, -1, because there will be a shared door. Yeah, maybe we'll do that. Uh-oh, more standing water and a Dreco. You need to go to the farm, and then I'll reseal up the island again. Speaking of the Dreco farms, we aren't doing too bad. We only have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, maybe 6.5 ranches that the bomb lilies are not growing. So the sooner we can get these Drecos hatched, the faster we'll get this place filled in. I suppose I'm also going to have to shift all of this over. Why don't you have any power? Oh no, what's going on? Looks like we're just not producing enough, hence the reason why the dupes are jumping on the wheels again. Look at this potential load. Yeah, we only have a current load of 16 or 17 kilowatts, but the potential load is already at 48 out of 50. When this happens, your only solution is to actually have 2 power spines and 2 power plants. And we don't have enough sources of power to be able to do that. I mean, we haven't even done any big industrial projects. Granted, we do have a lot of auto sweepers all over the planetoid, and they do add up, but they don't cause us to have a very constant load. The building that's taking the most power is the power bank chargers, and that's sort of makes sense with the bionic dupes. And at long last, it's time to print our next dupe into the colony here at cycle 394. And of course, it's another bionic dupe. Please help me. There was some mention in the comments of the fact that I ignored some dupes based on their booster, suggesting that I can just change out their starting booster, which is a very good point, but it just takes a lot more micromanagement. And with soon to be 125 dupes, I'm trying to limit the amount of micromanagement as much as possible. In this case, we're going to be grabbing this Sonyar. They have the ranching booster, which will immediately become helpful with the Drecos, and their only disadvantage is they're not a very good farmer or cook. Not a big deal to me. So welcome to dupe number 125, K4N4Y4. I suppose it could be Kinea? I'm not 100% sure. I'm just going to nickname the dupe K4. In the interest of speeding this along, I have separated the water line from here. So now these two geysers are just going to feed, well, the hospital bathrooms and the spawn. Hopefully one day, far in the future, I will remember to reconnect this so I can continue the process of draining all this. I'm also going to have to put in another tamer. I wasn't able to get too much progress in before it was time to print duplicate number 126 here at cycle 397. And the winner of this pod is going to be Eduardo, because their negatives are decreased cuisine and decreased agriculture. I don't like the ulti because of decreased construction, and I don't like the gizmo because of the decreased strength. So welcome to dupe number 126, S. Piercer. But we have started putting in the levels. The first thing you're going to notice is the fact that they're only 3 tiles high. We could have gone even shorter, considering that the cots are only 2 tiles high, but... Uh-oh, stand by. Who's trapped? Andy? No. Also Andy? But the ultimate reason why we chose to keep them 3 tiles high is because the lavatory and the gunk extractor, which both are 3 tile high buildings. Is no one really gonna come save Andy? At least they can breathe over there. The other advantage of making them only 3 tiles high is the fact that a barracks can be that max 64 tiles that we spoke about before. Well, we get a lot more distance with 64 tiles on a 3 tile high building, so we'll be able to put more cots per level. We will be missing out on 1 to make it a max size, but because otherwise the room would end up being 66 tiles, but it's okay because I have plans for this area too. If you're wondering the materials that we're using out of all this, all the tiles are made out of granite and all the doors are made out of gold amalgam. Now, it doesn't matter so much on the decor with the doors because yes, gold amalgam does have a decor bonus of plus 10%, but the doors themselves do not emit decor, so there's nothing for the gold amalgam to increase the decor of. But we do have 45 tons of it. On the other hand though, a regular tile has a decor rating of plus 5, and by using granite, we get a decor bonus of plus 20%, which means we do get a slight bonus here because of all the granite tiles. Now, right now, all the debris is taking away from the positive decor, but let me get it swept up and it might be a better visualization. You can see we've gone all the way down to this level because, well, we're still waiting to expand more. Here at cycle 401, it's time to print another dupe, and I was really looking forward to printing a normal dupe, but this poor May here is anemic, and I don't plan on starting any dupe with an athletics -5. There is a 100% chance they would get themselves killed. So instead, we're going to start with this Eduardo, who is disassociative, which means they have a decrease in husbandry and medicine. No one cares. But they do have an electrical engineering booster, which means they can do some of the Engie's tune-ups. Welcome to duplicate number 127, Dominic Tuso. Small update on our industrial sauna is it looks like we've managed to get the heat back up. We're at about 115 degrees on the left side, 133 on the right side, hot enough to make sure that the polluted water ends up flashing. All said and done, as far as the gas is, we do have 1 row of natural gas. I don't know how it happened, but it'll continuously get more and more compressed as the steam pressure increases. We also have 1 blob of hydrogen for some reason and a blob of carbon dioxide. But all in all, the sauna is going to be working just fine. It also looks like we've finished sweeping out most of this on down here. so I can deconstruct this whenever we are ready. The first thing we'll do is just get rid of the rails inside the sauna, and then start sweeping all this. Yeah, the materials are going to be really hot, but considering they're going to the storage tile of all storage tiles, somewhere way up here, it'll end up evening out. There's hundreds upon hundreds of tons of materials in there, so it's not going to raise the temperature at all. And here's what I've come up with for a typical block in our new living area. Each barracks row has enough room for 10 duplicants and a bathroom on each level, for a total of 20 regular duplicants. The bottom part has enough room for 20 bionic duplicants and a pair of gunk extractors. But to be honest, it does not really matter if a bionic dupe sleeps up here, because they can just come right down here to use this gunk extractor. Now, whether or not this is enough gunk extractors, I don't know, but you figure if I duplicate this going all the way down, it'll end up being 10 to 20 gunk extractors and bathrooms. Now, the mechanics in it are fairly simple. The polluted water coming out of the lavatory in the sink goes down in here, gets checked in the liquid filter just to make sure there's no gunk in it. If there is, it goes down through here. Otherwise, the polluted water passes up to the water sieve, gets cleaned, and then thrown back into the sinks. I still need an overflow for this system, which will probably be the clean water going somewhere. I've also built in a polluted dirt extraction system. Where it's going to go, I have no idea. These are the sort of things that I'd love for you to add your ideas into the comments below. But we also have a deodorizer down here that apparently needs power. Why do you need power? Oh, because this is not connected yet. Let's temporarily do something like this just to get this on the spine. In good news, we're almost done over here. We also have enough room for 20 duplicants to be eating here. Still don't know how I'm going to get the food up here though. It's probably going to be a refrigerator somewhere around here next to each Great Hall, which you can see that we were able to get the Great Hall bonuses, and we have the barracks bonus. We also have the washroom bonuses here, but nothing here for the gunk extractors, because once again, I was not able to squeeze in a hand sanitizer. So maybe I just keep having the bionic dupes use these gunk extractors. Or I could get rid of the decor thing in the middle of the barracks, squeeze it over, and put a disabled hand sanitizer station so they still get the washroom bonus here as well. The decor in the area is pretty good. We're still putting in some of the finishing touches here, and I've completely forgotten to put some more ceiling trim in. That will also help. But we really haven't been worried about decor too much, because we're not trying to max out the skills on the duplicants. And then finally, we have 20 docks. Now this is going to be one of the more complicated situations here, because while yes, we have oxygen flowing, this is just one pipe coming off of this spawn. As many of you know, if these suits are getting used consistently, one pipe can only handle about 5 docks, which means this here would need 4 separate pipes. I don't think we can make that happen. But this whole system would just duplicate again, adding enough sleeping room for 40 more duplicants, some more washrooms, another great hall, and another set of suits. I suppose I could dedicate this spawn to the start here. We also have another one that will be able to participate over here. But the important thing is it's a good start to getting all of our duplicants in suits anytime they leave the main part of the base. Now that I'm thinking about it, I may even bring in the food on rails, or just have one massive kitchen in here. I'm gonna have to move the deep freezer again, aren't I? I suppose the deep freezer cooler is the thermal regulator right here. I could just move it and set up a new kitchen. Let me get working on more of this and see how it comes out. And because my life is pain, it's time for another duplicant. And once again, it's only giving me bionic dupes. In this case, we're going to have to take the best of the worst, because the chip here has decreased strength. I don't love that. Stila has decreased athletics. And this Eduardo has decreased construction. But they also start with a construction booster. Their name is not Dominic, of course. I cannot wait for that bug to be fixed. Instead, this is I Am Pud. So welcome to duplicate number 128 here at Cycle 404, I Am Pud. So some good news and some bad news. We'll start with the good news. I did manage to figure out how to make these washrooms, and it was pretty simple when I realized, well, I don't need a water sieve just for 2 bathrooms, so I can have multiple washrooms all feeding to the same water sieve, and then just in the next block, have all the gunk extractors going into a pair of bottle fillers. The difficult thing is all of the piping. It's a mess. And I don't think I'm going to be able to avoid making this mess. It's just one of those situations that you have to deal with. But the long and short of it is, all the toilet water still ends up going through a liquid filter just to make sure it's not gunk. And if it's not, then it heads to the water sieve where all the bathrooms get refilled. Now, I'll probably repeat this again. That way the piping doesn't get worse and worse. Of course, I could have made this a little bit easier and put 4 washrooms here and then 4 gunk extractors here. The other bad thing is, well, the gas situation, despite my best efforts, is still not going to look any better. I may even have to add another spalm, say like right here, because we have already got legs going just about everywhere, and I do not think for a second that any of this is going to be able to keep up with the suits. Right now I've got single pipelines feeding 10 different suits, and all the math on that is just not going to equate. Of course, I could just straight up get rid of the suits here and then just have all the suits down in one area. Granted, it'd have to be a collection of at least 50 to 100 suits, but then I don't have to worry about sprinkling in these lines so much. I could just have a separate spawn that does nothing but suits. Yeah, I think I like that a little bit better. So let me get rid of all these. I'm noticing some lack of power around the colony again. This liquid pump and this thermal aqua tuner, and it's because their power transformers are towards the very end of this spine. And the power shortages are due to the fact that the natural gas generators are completely out of natural gas. We did tame this one here. Here's the second, which it's dormant. And here's the third, which it's dormant. Not surprisingly enough, all 3 natural gas geysers went dormant. Looks like we'll be running for a little while. So maybe I make these areas in between the blocks of 5 recreation rooms. One of them is eventually going to have to be a kitchen, but there's no reason why we can't turn this into something nice. But this is going to help so much with keeping the piping clean. And you might be wondering my method behind the madness on keeping this area oxygenated. You'll notice there's one pipe that's feeding, well, 40 duplicants, which that math does not add up. But you have to remember, yeah, they'll be sleeping in here and creating carbon dioxide and breathing quite a bit. The idea is that most of them will be in suits for the majority of the day. So I'm thinking once we clear out all these barracks, a massive spawn goes, say, right here, and it's going to be responsible for feeding 75 to 100 suits, I guess. That's going to be a piping nightmare. But yeah, I think I'll make this the recreation room and this one a kitchen. So yeah, I guess now they have a recreation room. I'm going to completely regret putting jukeboxes in there considering we're hurting so much on power. And the jukeboxes are quite literally the most unbalanced machine in the game, requiring 960 watts. I don't know what kind of speakers those are, but that's quite a lot. And can we not make so many duplicates, please? That would be awfully nice. But it does ring in as a recreation room, so we'll add a few more of these, which should help the morale around the colony. Speaking of morale, let's reduce mine a little bit. In this case, I think we're actually going to take a normal dupe. This Nicola is doctoring and cooking. They have an iron gut, and they're just unempathetic, so, well, they're not the best doctor in the world. So welcome to the colony, duplicate number 129, Lexer. I'm starting to think more about the long-term power solution for this place. I know we're going to be able to tap into some geothermal, and that will definitely help. But the planetoid we're on of Soilani actually has a 40,000 lux peak light, which means solar is pretty viable here. Granted, though, we have a lot of meteors and stuff coming in, so we'd have to build a whole solar panel protection thing. That might be the solution in the future. Because now that the duplicants are using the jukebox, I don't think they're going to want to quit. I have reached the end of our expansion that's possible, considering we're still trying to make our ways down. So I think the next episode is going to be a pretty heavy one. We're going to have to build that big spawn that's going to be able to supply a bunch of different suits. I'm going to have to move all of this water over. But at the minimum, the gas layout looks a little bit better. it's not going to look quite that good once we do get to the area that we're going to have the suits in. I only have one more row that I need to put in to complete this block, so I think this would be a good spot. Although it would be nice if I had it a little bit lower so it's in the dead smack center of the colony. But already this is enough living area for 110 dupes. And we still have plenty of space to fill everything in with. So if we say the mark for this playthrough is only 200 duplicants, it's only going to take about that much more space. So maybe I'll put the suit system here at the bottom, even though we do have quite a few areas here that are going to get in the way of that. To include the Somnian synthesizer, which I know everybody's looking forward to me tapping. I'm just not exactly sure how well that's going to work with all these dupes, but the return would be phenomenal because the Somnian synthesizer impacts every duplicant throughout the colony, just as so long as it gets enough dream journals. I also have an extra blueprint for you. Let's find out what we get today. Ooh, a bright wedge. Unfortunately, it's my least favorite color. Go Gamecocks. That's going to do it for us today. I also wanted to mention that here in the next few weeks, you're going to see quite a few Civilization 7 videos coming out. But don't worry, we will keep returning back to this colony for quite some time, so long as my computer can still handle it. Looking forward to hearing all your ideas about our new system in the comments below. So until next time, much love, happy gaming, and I'll talk to you soon.